Dave Glasser, that is so beautiful.
Thank you.
There's a lot of history in there, history of jazz. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Jody from JodyJazz. It's Dave Glasser, lead alto in the Count Basie band for 30 years, maybe?
Well, no, I was back in the band the first time I played second alto to Danny Turner. That would have been in 89, 90, 91. And then I did some subbing on and off. I left the band. And then for the last 5 years, I've been playing lead alto for him.
And then you've played with Clark Terry, with Dizzy, with Illinois Jacquet, and many, many great other musicians. I guess, I don't know, what would you tell a young person about some of this history? And just, that's a very open-ended question.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly feel very privileged and, to have had the opportunity to be around, feel the energy, feel the culture, feel the approach of all the people you mentioned and all the people that came through that experience. It's difficult, quite frankly, to share what that means. Generally, I tell young people, that, you can learn all of the notes, and there's a lot of that going on, transcribing, learning licks and everything like that. But to me, the essence of the music is much deeper than that. It's really about healing. It's about joyful spirit. It's about love. These are the things that I learned and I experienced being out on the road. So with all these different people over the years, that feeling of swing. Illinois Jacquet would play a ballad, and I'd be in the section and I couldn't read the music very well because my eyes are tearing up. So I mean, it's a level of emotion that I think is really an important thing. And then the foot tapping, it still happens. When you play with the Basie band, and people are, after you finish playing, people are, they're exhilarated, they're smiling ear to ear, and they're excited, and they don't want to go home. And to me, that's what the music really is. It brings a joyful, if it's done right, healing. So it's a lot more than just the notes, Clark was such a positive person, nothing but really, I mean, he almost, it kind of exemplifies joyful exuberance and energy, and humor. It's about emotion, So, those are the intangibles, and I think it's kind of a challenge because it's when you tell young people these kinds of things nowadays, which I do a lot of. I don't want to make them feel like they've missed out on everything,
right?
And that I mean, I think the music always has to evolve and change. It always has. So it's really about getting in touch with what the essence of the music is. It's not about playing like this person or playing like that person. It's about getting in touch with what is the common thread between all of those, between the history from Jelly Roll Morton all the way through Ornette Coleman, like the creators of the music. Like, what is the common thread? I think when you get in touch with that, you can pretty much play anything that you want and have it be connected to the music. So how do you get in touch with that? I think this is where, it's a lot of it is just listening. I mean, you have to really, there's nothing to replace the experience, but the only reason that I got those experiences, aside from maybe luck, was that when, that I had done my homework, in the words of Red Holloway, and that's how I ended up working with Clark the first time. Red couldn't make it, and I mean, Jesse Davis was in the band. Jesse couldn't make it. Clark asked Red to make it. I happened to be on the same thing with Red. He had been doing clinics with me, and he said, he said, well, to Clark, he said, well, get this guy, man. He's done his homework. So Clark said, okay, you do the Vanguard. And that's the first time I played with him. And then, he asked me to continue, and that's that story. So, I think, and in those clinics, I was explaining to the students the importance of learning how to play like Johnny Hodges. And it's more than just the notes. It's all the vocal aspects of the music. It's the expressive qualities. It's the pitch manipulation. It's the articulation of the rhythm. It's the the feel of the music. I didn't do a lot of transcriptions, and I never took a lick and transcribed it into 12 keys. But what I did try to do when I did learn solos was try to get as close as I could in every way to the feel. I didn't want to write them out because I felt if I wrote them out, some of the essence of the feel wasn't really. I mean, you could write out a solo and give it to one of these classical violinist phenoms, and they'll play all the notes Coltrane played in the exact right rhythms, and it won't sound anything like Coltrane. So I think that's always what I was trying to get to, is that essence of that. And if I wrote it out, then I'm reading it. So I recommend that students try to do that, if they really love the music, and just get into making it feel the same way and sound exactly the same way. And then you got to just let it come through you. Clark used to say when he did clinics, there were 3 stages: imitation, assimilation, and innovation. So I think, we know that, at least we're told that, when Paul Gonsalves came into Ellington's band, he was playing all of Ben Webster's solos, and then he began to develop his own style. So I think that there's nothing to be afraid of in terms of imitating. I think that's how we learn how to talk. We're just imitating our parents, and at first we sound like nonsense. But then eventually we learn how to speak, and then as we mature, we learn to speak from our parents and the people around us, but we have our own individual voice.
Yeah.
And we have our own ideas. So, I think that's the balance. Like, don't be afraid to really get into the essence of the music and imitate. And then at the same time, don't be afraid to allow yourself to come through the music once you learn the language. Because I think both those things can happen. Because especially when you learn a bunch of cannonball licks and stuff, I mean, he sounds so good. Like you try to play your own stuff and it pales by comparison.
Yes.
I mean, I have had that experience myself, but I think it's very important, and I think all of those masters, from what I've learned, would say, "Hey, man, you just gotta accept who you are, and play the music the way you hear and feel it. And if you love the music, then you'll be connected to it. Keep it going, keep making people happy, keep people dancing.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what I learned from them.
Yeah, and I guess the thing that pops out in there is that I see a lot of people on Instagram or something really burning on these transcribed solos they're playing note for note quite well, but I never see them take their own chorus. Maybe they can, but I never see them on their page, and I'm worried that they're stuck too far in there, and it's like you say, it's so hard to sound good after you played that, after you played the masterpiece, and but you got to do it.
But at the same time, man, like Lou Donaldson told me, like one time I was on a cruise ship, we were on a jazz cruise, and I was there with Clark, and Lou used to be there a lot with his group, so we got to know each other a little bit, and he's still live. About 98, I talk to him once in a while. He sounds great. But anyways, I guess we were playing Mood Indigo or something like that, and so I used to like to pay homage, to those that I was inspired by. So on something like that, I might go into my Johnny Hodges thing.
Yeah.
And I came off the bandstand, and Lou said, man, he said, man, when I was coming up, because he kind of has a high voice, he said, when I was coming up, you couldn't play like somebody else. Because if you did, they'd come in and take your gig from you. Meaning like, if because those people were all alive, so you had to really find your own way, And I think now we have like a couple of things going on. We have all this, educational system, and we have people who are like kind of competing against each other in what feels to me, in many cases, like a quantitative way, like how many things do you know? And then they go to play and they want to show everybody what they know. But I don't think there's any music really that I listen to where people are trying to show people what they know. They're trying to tell a story, You need to know certain things to be able to do that. So, there's that, and then it's also pretty narrow. I mean, you got people, aside from James Carter, who checked out, Lockjaw Davis and stuff, thank goodness for that, because it's a pretty narrow selection of things that people are learning. I mean, you got Lucky Thompson, you got Benny Golson, you got Lockjaw, you got so many different players that all played in their own way. You got Paul Gonsalves, you got Ben Webster, you got Coleman Hawkins, you got Don Byas, you got all these different people,
Besides Bird Train and Cannonball.
And Sonny Stitt. And Sonny Stitt's one of my favorite and one of my biggest influences, But I think when people learn things, they take a very specific, narrow kind of a thing, and that's what most people are learning, almost as if they have to prove that they know it to be able to do what they want. And then, like I studied with Lee Konitz. He was my first teacher when I was like 15. And, he was really big on, the whole idea of melody and embellishing melody and practicing to do that and as a form of practicing creativity. And Charlie Parker's, everything he plays is connected to the melody. And I think that's generally true throughout the history but most people are pretty, like sometimes it just sounds like the melody's a chore. And then they're going to show you all the stuff they know. And it's not a lot of variation of rhythm. Barry Harris used to always say, another big influence on me, another mentor of mine, people are just playing too many eighth notes. There's no triplets, there's no eighth note triplets, there's no rhythmic variation. If you listen to Bird solos are like a tap dancer or like a drum solo. So creative, the phrase lengths are all different. Their phrase is with a beginning and an end, a capital and a period, and it tells a story. So everybody's story is different. Some people play more than others, Coltrane, that's just the way it is, But still, there should be, I think those are the things that audiences can engage in, and I think that's really important. But it's revealing, when you try to do it, and it's humbling. So those are it's usually the few, that are willing to actually recognize that, and then recognize it in themselves. And then strive for it. But it's a sign of the times. Music is always a reflection, I think, of art is always a reflection of society. So that's probably saying whatever's happening in music is probably happening all throughout society right now. So now I'm kind of getting into my philosophical thing, so I'll shut up. But
it was great. It's sometimes we might have heard some of these things before, but so great. I know a lot of what you said, there's going to be things that touch people and just nudge them onto like a nice little path of creativity, getting to the essence, as opposed to the what you got to do, what you're trying to do. We have to do that, but we got to get to the essence, the beauty, just like you say, the love, the communication to the audience.
I can play a little example if
Sure.
you want me to.
Yeah, of
Give
course.
you a little example of what I'm talking about in terms of, how to really practice creativity, practice improvising over the melody of something.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you go on from there, you know? So, you know, you can probably hear, you go on from there, you know, you can probably hear that, you know, I started out with the melody very straight, and then that's my version of the melody. And I'm using rhythm, and I'm using embellishment, and I'm using pitch, and I'm using articulation. But I'm also, of course, I have to have enough of an understanding of how music works, how it's put together, how this music's put together rhythmically, harmonically, to be able to do that. And what it means to know that is not just knowing all the chords, because you could know something cognitively, you could also just know how it's supposed to sound. And that then feeds what you do, what you hear, and then you have to find what you're hearing on your instrument. That's why it takes all your life, and you never stop, and you're never finished, and it's always humbling and always challenging. So good luck. Good luck.
Thanks a lot. Really appreciate the words, your beautiful music. It's so cool. I'm just, you know, we're the same age, but you, a few other people I know got to play with the greats, and in a kind of a time when that was almost gone, and but you got right in there in the meat of it, and it's so cool, and we can hear it.
It's unusual. I mean, and that's what I learned from them, you know. And, you know, it's unusual. I mean, I was unusual. I was not really, you know, in high school, everybody was going parties and doing all their things and listening to Queen and the Beatles and whatever they were listening to, you know, and I wasn't interested in that. I was listening to Dexter Gordon and Homecoming and going to the Vanguard to hear him and, you know, just practicing all the time. And I don't know why I am the way I am. I really don't. My parents weren't jazz people, you know, you know, Frank Foster, who was a great tenor player, of course, with the Count Basie Orchestra, with Count Basie, a great arranger. He was the leader of the Count Basie band when I joined in 1989. And he told me, he said, you know, I joined the band, and when he heard me play whatever, he told me one time, he goes, you know, man, you're like an old soul, you know, which really meant a lot to me. And I mean, maybe it's true, man. Maybe it's true. You know, maybe we are connected to the past. Maybe there is some kind of connection. I don't know. I don't know that there is. I don't know that there isn't. But I don't really have an explanation, you know what I mean, for why a kid like me, you know, turns out like I do. But, you know, I am who I am, as they say.
Yeah.
Or some people say I is who I is.
Well, we feel privileged to know you, to have you here. Talking to us at the JodyJazz Factory, and thanks a lot, man. Thanks for the message.
Thanks for having me here, man.
Yeah.
It's great to come here, man. You play your mouthpieces are great. I mean, it's worth. Please check out Jody's Mouthpieces, because I mean they got to really do a good job here. Really, Factory is great. They got people making these things, and I really like them, man. I think they play great.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
All right.